Hey guys, welcome to Headbangers Australia. My name's Elias. This is my first interview with Headbangers Australia as the death metal rep. I've just joined there, and I also play in Anoxia. To my side is Atheist. Introduce yourself, guys. How are you?
I'm Kelly.
Jerry.
Alex.
Dylan Marks. You laugh.
How's Australia been so far, guys?
It's been very down under.
Very down under.
Yes. We had a fantastic time. It's kind of just a brand new world for us, and it took a long time for this band and us individually and collectively to be able to come over here and play. And it's just been actually super refreshing and a lot different than I thought it would be, and it's just been a lot more comfortable. And lots of great people treating us like kings. It's amazing. Having a good time.
Good. Glad to hear it. Any culture shock so far in your few days here?
Yeah, the price of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And driving on
Can I
the
say
other side
fuck?
of the road.
Yeah?
I nearly got killed the other night. I looked the wrong way and I nearly got hit by something.
I'm glad you didn't get hit. This would have been awkward.
No, but there's been proper Jaeger and Red Bull, so that's comfortable. Aside from the cigarettes, there's been all the creature comforts that Atheist needs to play metal, and great friends we've made so far. We had a great show in Perth a few days ago, which is not a place, from what I understand, that has a lot of metal shows. So that was fantastic, and crowd showed up. So shout out to Perth for coming out to see us play, and we're looking forward to the rest of the 4 shows to come.
Yeah, killer. So we did touch on Perth and that they don't have these shows too often. How'd you find their crowd energy?
100% all in. It felt like a lot of times, in America, you can play a show sometimes in bigger cities, and you really got to work hard because big cities like Chicago, LA, New York, they get to see every single band that comes through on tour. So it's nice to play a place where you can feel the appreciation from the crowd, where they appreciate you're there, and we perform better under those situations because we can recognize that's it becomes a team effort to put on a good night, and so collectively with promoters, people, the club, Linnet's Lounge in Perth was amazing, really good people. So when you have all of that, it makes for an easy night of metal.
Definitely. With that, you've come off a big tour in the States as well, combined with Perth and things like that. Any crowd moments or funny stories to share with crowd interaction from any of those shows that stand out?
There's tons of stuff. All the shows are absolutely amazing, and they each have their own vibe and atmosphere to them. I guess like a funny story is in Kansas, in Lawrence, Kansas. We do things kind of in the moment, and I jumped up on the drum riser, and in the moment of Room with the View, just jumped off the stage and fell in front of everyone, and it's like one of those things that's like,
Proper shitting of the bed.
Yeah, seriously. But at the same time, it's like it's so raw and intense that I think everyone picks up off of that energy, and we laugh about it and we go, crap, hopefully that doesn't happen again. But
Can't forget Portland.
Yeah.
So my man buys the big, huge, thick Stephen King book, It, to decide he's going to read this on tour, and so he starts reading it, and it gets a little crazy. Starts having some bad dreams, and then we play in Portland, and our merchandiser Alexandra paid. I don't know where the clown came from, but there just happened to be a clown there with a balloon, and so she paid that person to make a sign that said "Hi, Jerry." So while we were on stage, we'd look out, and it's crazy crowd. And there's a clown with a balloon with a deadpan face and a sign that says "Hi, Jerry." So we were like, just all kinds of, a lot of people don't realize that when you're on stage, you see a lot of things. You may not be able to comment on them as they happen, but we see them. And then there's also things that happen on stage that people out there don't see that that we kind of chuckle about on stage, and we have a really good time together on stage, and we kind of talk to each other in between, literally in the middle of the song, in front of lots of people, and at the end of the day, if you do something you love, it's got to be fun.
Definitely.
And you can't take yourself too seriously, but as long as you're executing and playing properly, that the extra fun shit is just makes it good for everybody, I think.
Also, Alex's birthday in Vancouver.
True.
Yeah. That was awesome. Put the party hat on him, lit the candles.
That was cool.
That was a great moment.
Yeah, it's
It
good.
was your birthday. Not typically.
Turned 30 on
surprises,
stage.
So caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's fantastic.
That's great. So moving on, Piece of Time, 35 years, the legacy it's created and the history it's made. How do you feel with all that time that's passed? It's been 35 years.
I mean, in many ways, it doesn't feel like that, but then, you know, when you think about all the things that have happened since we made that record to now, and the different eras of the band and the different records that we made since then, you know, looking back on this, it just reminds me of being kids, you know, and the real reason that everybody should make metal, you know, for the fun shit, for the camaraderie, for the, you know, the banding together as friends with a shared love of vicious music, you know, and that's what Piece of Time reminds me of. It just reminds me of being a kid and smoking a lot of weed and just writing the best metal you can, and that was kind of where we were during that album. We were just finding out how to learning how to write songs, how to play our instruments the way we wanted to. We weren't exactly where we wanted to be on that album, but you can listen to songs like Piece of Time and I Deny, which were like signs of things to come, you know, and then you can hear the songs that I wrote, you know, I personally wrote when I was like On the Sleigh, I wrote when I was 16 years old, so it's very juvenile. So there's a little bit of that. That's what I think about, you know, with that album. Like it's like showing people your grade school photograph in some ways, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is me in second grade. And, you know, but I became much cooler later, you know, and so it's kind of like that a little bit, you know, where you're very undecided about where you're going or what you want to do. So it's raw and it's real.
Yeah.
So that's the best part about Piece of Time is it's an honest record of just a bunch of young metal kids from Florida sweating it out.
Yeah, very cool. Moving on as well, from yourself personally, or each of you personally, collectively as a band, what are some influences that bring Atheist to the sound it has?
From the early days, we had a lot of love for, you know, old traditional Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Rush, things like that. Yes, and we had a lot of sort of progressive influences, but also like really solid metal influences. And then, you know, along came bands like Watchtower and Metallica, early Exodus. You know, those were bands that were thriving when we were just sort of coming to be. So, you know, I have to tip my hat to those bands because they were really sort of laying the groundwork for what could, you know, the separation of hair metal, especially in Florida. There was a lot of, you know, the Whitesnakes, the Poisons, the Motley Crues, that kind of music. We just had such disdain for that it fueled our motive to play fast and angry. And you know, sometimes when you do that, it goes a little too far, you know, so some of the early songs on Piece of Time are you know, these guys always bust my balls about it all, but you know, they're always trying to get me to play like all these obscure songs from Piece of Time, but you know, it's hard, you know, it's like when you write your first song, your first couple of songs, you know, it's like your first couple of paintings or your first time, I don't know, are we on YouTube? I could say this, you know, the first time you have sex with your girlfriend, you know, it's not as good as the 10th time, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just the way it is, man, you know what I mean? And so that's what that record is. It's a very honest portrayal of young, fiery fucking metal guys trying to separate themselves from this hair metal shit. And I think a lot of this music came from that, probably with Metallica as well in San Francisco, because they were subject to that same shit in LA and that whole movement. So a lot of that just came out of young angst.
Well, I also think too that, like, you know, we're different ages in this group, and that I also think like perspective and environment and stuff like that also change how we feel about music. So, you know, the four of us collectively weren't in the band back in those days. Like, most of us weren't even alive. None of us were alive when Piece of Time was written and recorded. So, you know, so it's like one of those things where, you know, Kelly had his experience writing those songs and growing up with them, whereas we were born into a world where they always existed.
Yep.
So I think that really changes like the viewpoint of how we feel about those songs.
Yeah, and this lineup too that's what makes it unique with us, because they have this different perspective of those songs, and and I have mine, and we get together, and and so they fueled a renewed enthusiasm for me for the old songs, and it's fun, to go out and play them every night. And on this particular tour, we play a lot of stuff from Piece of Time, and
Yeah.
so it's
We've been playing a lot of deep cuts on the recent circuits that we've been doing, and I've been personally seeing a lot of a reaction from the audience. They fucking go crazy. They're like, "Yo, let's thrash, let's go."
Yep.
And they move. You don't have to push them to do it anymore. So I'm very happy that, to Kelly's perspective, people had to fight to get that audience reaction early on. People didn't give that respect when the album came out.
no.
Nowadays, people fucking go. They like that shit. They're
Yeah, it's
about it.
unusual for me too, because I'm still feeling like that guy that was playing that music back then when everybody was like, "What the fuck is this?" And
Yep.
so they're like, "Nah, man,
it's
our,
like
our
when you tell
generation
people-
understands,
It's like when you tell people the band's called Atheist. You're used to being in the 80s and telling everyone, my band's called Atheist, everyone clutching their pearls. And me, it's like, this band's called like Dying Fetus and shit. So it's like, I
they don't know
tell people with a big smile on my face, my band's called Atheist. And they're like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even feel that thing that you had to like slog through and, just because the times have changed.
Yeah.
I think it also goes to show too that just like how important this work has been to the world, and how much it's changed and grown with the times, and that the fact that it's 35 years later and it still holds up, if not even more than it did back then. So it's
has
a
its
really
place,
incredible thing.
Cool.
Very cool. So having a different lineup and refreshed enthusiasm and things like that with newer material that could or could not happen, just depends how things go. What's the creative process like for newer Atheist material in terms of songwriting ideas or formulas and things like that?
It's been effortless.
Yep.
I mean, I can tell you that I've written with a lot of different variations of people, not just in Atheist but elsewhere. But we just we booked a writing session in Perth, right? It was Perth, and in Milwaukee while we were on tour, and as soon as we're plugged in and we get in a room, it's the organic process that needs to happen with it. There's no ego, there's no nobody's trying to get all of their riffs in the song. Everybody knows, you can feel ideas that are sort of fueling the moment of that particular writing session. So I think that we've written about 7 really incredible pieces of music that I think will be the next chapter in this, easily the next chapter in the history of Atheist. But it's not you have to really understand how unusual that is, because we all come from such different places. So to be married to 4 other people's ideas in one setting, in one room, in one night or 2 nights or whatever, it's not an easy thing. So a lot of times there's 1 or 2 guys that will dominate a process, and there's always 2 or 3 guys that are like, man, I have these great ideas, but it doesn't feel like that with our writing process. Everybody just kind of stops playing for a minute and listens to everybody's idea. There's never a moment of I don't think we've had any moments of frustration, which in the early days of Atheist was a really big problem. Maybe it lent itself to some of the early songwriting, but we were also in a very hot environment, a garage that was about 100 degrees, and so when you're sweaty and angry and young and broke and you just, those kinds of things kind of can fuel ideas. But ironically, that this scenario that we're in now, which doesn't mean that we're not living the high life, but I mean we're in more comfortable situations of writing. We're not sweating our faces off, but we're in the ideas just immediately flow within the first 5 minutes that we sit down together. Every single time that we've sat down together. And a lot of work that we do that we couldn't do back in the early days of writing with Atheist is done individually, and we all write, and we're able to, in this day, capture those ideas and send to each other, which was not possible back then. So that lends itself to a whole new songwriting process. And then when we do get in a room together, we each have folders of ideas, and we go through each other's ideas respectfully and pick out the things that we feel like, fit into the not a mold, because there isn't a mold of Atheist, but I think I can recognize, and I think they recognize sometimes more than I do, something that fits into the Atheist world, you know, and the next chapter, not repeating things that we've already done, because every Atheist record is very different. But there's also a common denominator of challenging things that happen, you know, and then that's the thing that we really want to maintain, is carrying it into, you know, this. It's been 15 years since we've made a record. It's been, you know, a lifetime since we've made a record. So one of the cool things about having a brand new situation is you can only write your first record once.
Yep.
When it's your first record, you know. So this kind of has that charm to it. Like, we're writing together for the very first time, and we're capturing it, and I think it's going to be amazing. So we hope to get, you know, something out by 2026.
Very cool. All right, so we are in the middle of the Australian tour. Before we wrap things up, any final words for the Australian fans out there?
I mean,
Come.
yeah, I mean, we've only had one show here in Perth, and it was outstanding, and it seems the spirit's alive and well in Australia. I want to thank Mate Bookings and even Gig Gauge back in Perth. Shout out to Lee, who took great care of us, and all the people that made this happen. This whole tour happened from a phone call with myself and Anthony one late night in Florida. It was probably daytime for you, Anthony. It's offset. But yeah, just things that happen in metal are very DIY, but they become these things that last a lifetime. You know, I mean, these moments that you don't really, you know, there's managers and there's record labels and there's all these things, but at the end of the day, it's these one-on-one relationships that really kind of make things happen. And so late night on Facebook one night, I knew that I wanted to go to Australia really bad with the band, and I just saw Anthony from Your Mate Bookings on there, and I thought maybe our management had already talked to him, and they hadn't, and I just by chance reached out, and then we had a great convo on the phone, and here we are. And I love that shit. I think that's the best part of this business, is promoters and fans and musicians, you know, just seeing each other eye to eye on the level of difficulty to pull off bringing an American band to Australia. It took 35 years for us to get here, so that should tell you, you know, how challenging it is to bring bands from other countries. And so I encourage everybody to support all the shows that you see coming here, because a lot of work goes into bringing bands from America to Australia, and Australia has certainly so far shown up, you know, and we look forward to the next 4 shows. If you're out there watching, please get your tickets, come to the show. It's we're not your typical technical metal band. We love to have a great time. We love to throw down and have a lot of fun and pull people into our show. So it's not we can't do it without you. So you have to show up.
Well, thanks to Your Mate Bookings for bringing these guys out. Thanks to Unreil Studios for having us here for the interview.
And Noxie is on the bill too, the whole tour.
Gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks to Unreil Studios for having us, and thanks guys for your time.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Cheers. Thank you, Your Mate Bookings.
Oh yeah.